Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Telling It Like It Is. My name is Jade Alberts, the founder of Pure Guidance. We listen, guide, and connect small businesses, startups, and entrepreneurs. Sharing knowledge and stories is why I started the Facebook Live show. It is live. If you have any questions, please ask away. If you're watching this after the fact on another social media platform, put your questions in there. They will get answered. I would like to thank Krista Malden and Community Now magazine for their support. They engage, educate, and inspire us to be stronger together. You can head to their website, which is in the comment section, and just click on it and you'll take you right there. I am excited about talking to Kimberlea Kozachenko today, the founder of Kolmeta. Kimberlea, thanks for joining me. And how are you today?
Oh, thanks for having me, Jade. It's great to see you. I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fantastic. As we were talking a little bit before, we're off to the lake today, so things are pretty good.
Perfect. It's a good time to go to the lake.
Exactly. I always stress the importance of networking. So I always share with our viewers how we met. And actually, this will be the first time I can say this, but you actually met my wife, Catherine, first. And then she says, "Oh, you got to meet Kim." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that sounds good." And we met for a coffee, and then now here we are.
Yeah. It's amazing to me that just the networking community that exists in Calgary, the people that you'll meet, notwithstanding the fact that we've been in our houses for a long time now. But prior to that, there's a lot of really great opportunities for women in business in particular to meet in the city of Calgary, or not even women, just entrepreneurs in general, leaders, business leaders. And so that is how I met your wife, was just through a networking session at one point late last year. And I think that there's still those opportunities that exist in Calgary now too. They're virtual, but I hope that people are out there taking advantage of those opportunities to meet new people in the city.
Oh, and that's so true. And even our Founders Coffee, we've been live for a month back, meeting face to face again at Red's Diner every Tuesday, 7:30 a.m. So I know more of them are coming back. So I mean, that's good to see too.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's wonderful to see people out there again too. And I've heard those are great. I need to join you at 7:30. I'm more of a 9:30 kind of coffee person, but I'll try.
Exactly. We'll get you out to one.
Yeah.
I'll do a brief introduction and then we will get into the questions. So Kim is a proudly born and raised Albertan, a former corporate executive leader turned successful entrepreneur, has made impact in a variety of industries and sectors. She's an internationally published writer with her works printed in digital copy in Canada, United States, and a hardcover in the UK. Kimberlea's first Canadian published book will be out this summer. After spending almost a decade in corporate talent leadership roles, she's become a sought-after international speaker, influencer, and talent to the business community. Has been invited to share her exponential ideas and accomplishments on stages at world-class events for companies such as LinkedIn, Glassdoor, MediaCorp, and numerous professional designation associations, universities, and more. Through Kolmeta, Kim wants to help individuals and organizations achieve their most audacious goals. She believes in relentless innovation, genuine connections, and transparency that will change global practices for the better. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why we hit it off and we had such a good conversation when we met for companies. As you help companies, elevate their culture and empower their employee productivity. I mean, COVID's kind of turned this upside down a little bit. So what have you seen in the last few months with the company's culture and that, through COVID?
Yeah, great question. And you're right. I think this is why we hit it off, Jade, is you and I seem to share similar values as it relates to impact and purpose for employees, for sure, for companies too. And from my perspective, all of this always connects to leadership. So at Kolmeta, our purpose, our goal is to support organizations with their leadership practices, because we believe that if leaders are strong, confident, empowered, have the tools that they need to be successful, that they are going to empower and tool up their team members to be equally empowered and successful as well. So through COVID, what we've seen and heard the most is consistent with that theme. How do we prepare leaders to have more difficult conversations? Companies are starting to and continue to make some really difficult decisions over the last couple of months. And what I'm seeing through Kolmeta is companies starting to get really, really clear on their values. And I'm not talking about the values that are plastered on the walls or on the swag within companies, although those are important. I'm more talking about the values connected to those tough decisions that they need to make. What do they need to prioritize? And so the biggest one seems to always come back to performance expectations, and not in a bad way, but in a really great way. Like, companies are looking to provide more clarity to their teams, provide more clarity to their leaders. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? And how are we doing it? Because the how has changed a lot for individuals. A lot of that is connected to the work from home, work from anywhere, however you want to position that particular piece. But a lot of companies were thrown into a space where they had to react to this. And so now they want to recover from that and start to respond rather than react to those pieces. And so we're seeing a lot of those types of trends come from organizations now, which is really interesting. And I think it's going to be positive too.
Oh, no, I agree. I mean, I think there's going to be some tough transitions. I mean, one of the first companies I helped in the entrepreneurial world was a company that was hoping to transition people to make sure they were set up properly to be work from home. And because not everybody can do it. I mean, I've been doing it for 20 years. It's easy for me. I have a system. It works for me. My system might not work for you or anybody else. But I guess moving forward, how is that going to be, that culture and, whatever you wanted to say, the slogans on the swag that may, that are important, but how are they going to ensure this isn't affected when people are working from home most of the time?
Yeah, such a good question. And to your point, Jade, you have experience working from home. You've got tools and technology to support that. Same, I have lots of experience working from home, working from anywhere, whatever the case is. But there is a lot of tools and technology that support that. But to your point, the culture piece is a little bit more important. So one piece that I always advise companies, individuals, whatever position you sit in to start with, is something that I've referred to, and my other former colleagues have referred to it as a charter or rule of engagement. So you have the tools and technology to work from anywhere, but in order to really be effective in that, you and your team need to decide, how is that going to work for you and collectively as a team? So it kind of turns into this collective or collaborative set of ways that you're going to work together. Like, how often are you going to connect? How are you going to connect? Why are you going to connect? Having people get together and decide those things as a team together, even if they are having to work remotely to do that, is a really great way to really foster the engagement between the team members. And it also offers a channel for accountability too. I think working from home can be scary for people if you're not used to it. It can feel disruptive to a culture because people feel that they can only be connected in person. That doesn't have to be true. You can create connection any way that you feel is necessary. And as a team, if you create that charter or rules of engagement together, then you're all accountable to keeping it alive, right? You're all accountable to fostering it and keeping that going, and keeping whatever you decide is important to you and your communication together, right? So I think that's a piece that often gets overlooked when people get advice about working from home. There's a lot of focus on the tools, but maybe not enough focus on the rules of engagement.
No, so very true. And some of the points that you brought up there is connectivity and face-to-face. That is not going to go away. Just because someone is working from home, it doesn't mean that they're not going to be in constant contact. I truly believe when people work from home, the actual communication is better. Right. And I have found that within organizations, but that just doesn't happen by you not doing it. You have to make sure that you do have a plan in place, whether that be through Slack or maybe trying to eliminate some of the emails and everybody's on something, some sort of a, talk, WhatsApp, whatever it may be, where people are in constant communication. So they can't use I didn't see them in the office today and I don't know what they said. Right. I've always said, work is a thing you do, not a place you go. And I mean, that's not for everybody. My brother works in the steel industry and he has to be at work. He can't cut steel from his house. So, but when it comes to this professional setting and ideas like this, I personally don't think culture will be effective because a communication will improve.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just to add to that, you kind of touched on this. People in the office setting or in the face-to-face settings might argue that the connectivity, the culture will go away because those drive-bys, those like run-ins don't happen. You can easily make those part of your day if you're working from home. And so me and my team, we have run-ins scheduled. We have a group chat that's open all the time, right? People can plug into it whenever they feel like. Sometimes there's a meme that flies in there and it's nothing to do with work at all. So you can orchestrate those kinds of casual, engaging kinds of conversations with your colleagues or with your team in any way that you choose. It's completely up to you to do that, for sure.
No, absolutely. We, through peer guidance, we've set up, we have a WhatsApp chat. We've always been, doing that as well. I was out in Radium, and Peter and I went fishing. Colette and I have, we live in the same neighborhood. We've gone for a few walks. You make it happen, right? It's just something that it will only affect you if you let it. And if you have that mindset that if you not, it's going to affect you, you've got to change.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Again, I'm talking with Kim Kozachenko, founder of Kolmeta, and let's talk a little bit about your company. And sometimes I'm a fan of rebranding, and sometimes I'm not. Some people do it well, some people don't, whether it's companies, individuals, whatever it may be. And it can affect a business in many different ways. So you we're going through this just as kind of COVID hit, or just before COVID hit. So share with our listeners why you decided to do it and the work that went into it, and did it help through COVID?
Sure. Yeah. A great question. So funny enough, I was talking to another consultant who I was a former colleague with her a long time ago. And she used the language brand renovation. And I actually really loved that. And so, so credit to her for plugging that thought into my mind. But that's sort of how I would describe what Kolmeta went through. So like any entrepreneur, when I started the company, so proud, so happy, so excited about everything that we were putting out there. But businesses need to be agile in order to survive, and more importantly, in order to thrive, I think. Yeah. And so in order for Kolmeta to move forward into 2020, so pre-COVID, this is all pre-COVID, I knew that the brand that I represented, that our ideal clientele represented, that our team represented had shifted a little bit. And so our overall messaging was still the same, but the look and feel and the delivery, we couldn't be fixed on past ways of doing things any longer. And we needed to make some subtle adjustments in order to make sure that we were delivering the most impact. Impact is at the top of the list of our corporate values. And so we decided to make some subtle shifts in some of our messaging, and again, core messaging was the same, but some subtle shifts in how it was presented to offer a little bit more clarity. Focus has been a big word for me, for Kolmeta, for the team over the last couple of months in particular. And so the purpose of the brand renovation was to add a little bit more focus to what we were doing, so that really ultimately we want the people that we support to have as much clarity as possible so that they can be successful. I think it's Brene Brown that says clear is kind. And we think that that's true too. So that's kind of the story behind that.
Oh, cool. I mean, and for anybody who wants to check out her new stuff, you can just click on the link in the comment section, kolmeta.com, and it'll take you directly there. I absolutely love it. I love what you did. I got to see the before and the after. So you did a fantastic job. I mean, so congratulations on that.
Oh, cool. Thank you. And I have to say this too, like a lot of people do ask, like, how did you do it? And so I have another friend. She's an entrepreneur in Edmonton. She's actually a clothing designer. She designed this jacket. Her name's Emily Salisbury DeVoe.
I just talked with her the other day. I mean, I love what she's doing. She's, her story's excellent. And I do have her coming on in the future.
Brilliant. Yeah, yes. She's a brilliant entrepreneur, a brilliant designer, and I'm lucky to say a very dear friend of mine as well. Nice. Yeah. But her and I talk about this a lot, that if there's something that you don't know how to do, you can figure out how to do it. So, like I am not a web design expert. I will never pretend to be, but I figured it out, right? And I'm not saying that for any other reason other than to maybe someone who's listening to this might be scared of something right now, or feel like that seems like an impossible task, but I can promise you that it is not. If you want to figure something out, there are endless tools, free, well, usually online, for you to figure out how to do anything you want to do. Just make the space for yourself, and make the space for yourself to make a couple mistakes along the way. But I promise you can do it.
No,
So
absolutely. No, for sure. And I mean, she went through a little thing in our conversation. I popped her website up in the comment sections there. So if anybody wants to check that out, the Emmy DeVoe is there too. But no, I agree. And her stuff and the simplicity of her stuff is just awesome.
totally, right? I love it. Yeah,
Love it.
I don't want anything else.
I don't want to ruin our conversation on and talking about Emmy, because it's I could go on forever talking about what kind of a great company they are too. So I know, companies like yourself, obviously, that are dealing with these businesses and small to medium and startups. And obviously this affects you. I mean, people are looking at saving money and cutting costs. And so what did you do, and how did you adapt during this time of uncertainty?
Yeah, really, really great question. So full transparency, March was a really hard month for me personally, for the business, for the employees, for our clients, for everyone. March was tough for everybody. And it felt like a huge letdown. And I think, like a lot of other people, again, I'm being very vulnerable right now in saying this, but I think a lot of people were, including myself, failure maybe had never occurred to them before, but in some of those moments, I think some of us had to consider that. Yeah. Like a lot of things were canceled, shifted, moved, whatever the case is. And that's a lot for an entrepreneur to be able to handle, especially in their first 2 years of operating. But the good news story in that is that I think one of the most important qualities of leadership in general, or of entrepreneurship, is the ability to be resilient, even if you feel like you've been beaten up a little bit. Finding a way to kind of, just take it in stride and try to focus on something positive became what I focused on with Kolmeta. So there was three things that we did to adapt over the last couple months. The first one was my team and I started leaving more intentional space for personal connection. So we talked a little bit earlier about the work from home thing and how we have those purposeful accidental run-ins scheduled. And that's largely why we had those in our calendars anyway. But I think we used the time differently during COVID, during the quarantine lockdown period in particular, to make sure that we were able to just do a little bit more of a check-in with each other and maintain a little bit more of an intentional personal connection, which I think was important. We included our families in that too, our families, friends, that kind of thing. So wasn't necessarily all together on the video call, but we would try to make sure that we asked about each other's families and so on. So the other thing we did to adapt was we started to volunteer more. So I mentioned to you earlier, Jade, that we started to do webinars for non-for-profit organizations to support the staff in those organizations, as well as the clients within those organizations, to manage things like their personal brand in the effort of their job seeking process later, because we're not blind to the fact that there's been a lot of painful things that have happened with people in their jobs in the last couple of months. And so we took that as an opportunity to provide information free of charge to as many organizations as we could in the non-for-profit space, so that those people that are their clients can start to think about how they might get themselves back on their feet. Or more importantly, how they might build some of their confidence in the short term that will benefit them in the long term. And that actually gave us a lot of gratitude. So that helped us balance a lot of our positivity as well. And then the third thing that we did was I mentioned earlier that a lot of things got canceled. I'm not unique in that. I think a lot of people had plans and expectations for 2020 that shifted. We redirected our energy into some passion projects for Kolmeta that had been backburnered because we just didn't have time for them in 2019. So for example, we wanted to write a professional development planner book, and we wrote the book, and it's coming out this summer. So yeah. We wanted to create some really accessible, high value, high impact, low cost online learning. And again, like we've built courses. They'll come out later this summer too. Periodically, there's going to be one or two that'll launch every couple of months throughout the rest of the year now. And we're so lucky that we had that space, but more importantly, we're really lucky that we were able to see some silver lining in the gift of time we had been given. And I know that sounds a little bit bizarre and maybe a little Aquarius and hippy dippy, but spoiler alert, I'm an Aquarius and I'm hippy dippy. So, but it was life changing for us. to be able to see a little bit of that silver lining and focus on the positive rather than dwell on the negative. So,
I mean, I think it's such a good story. I mean, like, I've talked to well over 100 businesses in the last few months, and there's a lot of great stories like yourself, and what they've been able to do with that time. They just didn't sit there and mope and say things. I mean, they talked to people, they got out there, they did what they needed to survive, and not only survive but thrive. And I mean, it's just, it puts a smile on my face when I hear that. Yes, some have closed, and it's devastating, and some of them may have closed without COVID, but we have such a good entrepreneurial and such a strong entrepreneurial community here that people have been reaching out and helping each other through this time, and it has been. It's made everybody so much more connected. We're even closer when you have the Friday talks with UNAMI, and the way the Edmonton and Calgary rainforests have come together, and they were, we would have 60, 70, 100 people on some of these calls, all talking, all sharing, all there for each other. So it's amazing.
It's so wonderful. Yeah. The entrepreneurial community, just the personal connections that people show to each other, the compassion, the empathy, in many cases blown away in a very positive way by that.
Absolutely. So I guess you kind of answered my next question there, saying what's next, when you said you got a book coming out, you did this, but maybe you can expand a little more.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll just maybe share a little bit about the book. When people say they wrote a book, I know everyone's writing books these days, but not you. Okay, well, maybe one day. So I've always used a certain series of techniques with either my team members who have worked with me in my teams, or if I've ever coached anyone, I tend to use the same series of advice and techniques when I'm walking people through how to advance their careers, how to build their personal brands, how to set and achieve goals, essentially. And so what ended up happening was we were able to put something together that will allow people to go through that in more of a self-driven, independent way. And so the book itself will be a really nice balance between content and reflective journal space that will allow people to go through a series of steps to set goals and ultimately drive themselves towards achieving those goals. And I'm really, really excited about this because I repeatedly have seen people individuals completely change and evolve and grow in these incredibly beautiful ways. I'm so lucky that I get to see that face to face. Again, coming back to impact, feel really grateful that we were able to put something together that many people might be able to use. And so really excited to put that out into the world later this summer. I think we're going to call the book Audacious Goals. I don't know yet. We'll see. That's the one thing. Apparently you're supposed to title things last. I don't know what the title will be, so everyone will be just as surprised as I will. But anyway, yeah. So that's for sure what's next. That's the most exciting thing. And I think also too, what's next for us is we got a lot of joy from giving back to the non-for-profit community in the form of just experiential learning, I guess is a really nice way of putting it. We definitely will continue down that path as well, because I think that's work worth doing for any organization is taking the time to give something back. So that was a great learning for us, and we'll continue to do that too.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we waived at Pure Guidance all the fees for our clients through COVID times here, and we continue to do so. And we also spent some time with some charities to give back and help them out with their business plans and some of their vision moving forward. Just simple little things, handful of phone calls and Zoom calls, I guess. And again, and no matter what you do, it feels good to give back. And I mean, we had this discussion, will all charities be around? Probably not. I mean, there's a lot of them in Alberta, and they're all fighting for the same dollars, and cuts are going to be coming somewhere. So whether that's good or bad when it comes to, maybe they can start collaborating a little more, but it does, and it's important. And I see that not only through companies like yourself and ours, but all over the province, which again puts a big smile on my face.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed.
Yeah. So we're coming to the end here. And my last question is always the same. If you had one piece of advice for a small business startup or entrepreneur, Kim, what would that be?
Great question. So I've been asked this question before and my answer is different every time, but because entrepreneurship is different every day. But right now, based on what I've learned in the last couple of months, my advice is twofold. The first is to be focused. And then the second half of that is to stay flexible. And so they might sound like contradictory statements, but get focused. I mean, get crystal clear on what it is that you're trying to achieve. What are you looking to do? Set somewhat attainable and audacious goals for yourself. And everything that you do should be in service to that purpose, that focus that you have. I've learned a lot about, asking myself, what am I doing and how is this in service of my goals? So that focus has helped me a lot, especially in times of uncertainty. So that's the first piece. And then the flexible piece comes to back to what I said earlier about how we can't be fixed on past ways of doing things. And so if you need to adapt and show a bit of agility, if something arises where you need to do that, we as entrepreneurs need to be open-minded enough to see those opportunities and then be flexible and move towards them in a way that still remains in service of our focus. So that would be the advice I would give to other businesses, other startups, entrepreneurs, is be focused, yet stay flexible.
No, that's great advice. And I don't think it's contradictory at all. I mean, your focus has to be flexible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right. One day you might be, as an entrepreneur, you're focusing on your finances. The next day it might be marketing, and the next day it might be sales. They go hand in hand. So I think that's a great. And as you said, you've been asked that question a lot, and your answer is different every time. I'm probably at 130 or so interviews, and I'm still asking that question because I'm always amazed by the answer. So
yeah, and it's a great question. It's an important one. Maybe that can be your book, Jade. You can compile all the answers to that, because that in itself would be a fascinating read for people. Because depending on the day, you might get value from one piece of advice. So
I do like that idea, but I don't like the work you're creating for me.
Yeah. I hear you.
Well, excellent. I mean, Kim, thank you so much for joining and sharing your knowledge and story today. And again, if anybody wants to, reach out and connect, you can just click on the comment section, kolmeta.com. It'll take you directly there. And it's people like yourself that give back, that make our entrepreneurial community that much stronger. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you so much for having me, Jade. And thank you for all the work that you're doing in this space to connect other entrepreneurs and just people in general in the community. I think the work you're doing is really important. So thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And to everybody, have a great week, and we will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.